Foreign election observers in Nigeria cautioned not to interfere in the electoral process. U.S. former President Bill Clinton calls President Buhari wishes Nigeria as well as the go to the polls. In international news, Maduro invites U.S. envoy, reviews secret meeting. And in sport, Mali to face Senegal in under-20 AFCON finals.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The long-anticipated general elections comes up tomorrow, and there has been lots of political charges and counter-charges, accusations and claims on the road leading to the election. The role of observer missions in this particular election is key because previous elections in Nigeria have been marred by irregularities and fraud. Members of the Commonwealth Observer Group, led by Tanzania former President Jakaya Kikwete, are in the country and have been deployed to various regions of the country to observe preparations for tomorrow's election. Earlier in the week, the group met with the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Abuja. A similar mission from the Commonwealth was in Nigeria for the 2015 elections, and part of its 32-point recommendation was to review the accreditation and voting system, which required voters to be in a polling unit for the whole day.
The last Commonwealth Observer Mission recommended that we should abolish that archaic system, that as citizens or voters are accredited, they should be able to vote at the same time.
This is the sixth time a Commonwealth Observer Group would be in Nigeria for its elections since 1999, and Nigeria is Africa's largest economy and a key member of the Commonwealth. As foreign observers disperse to different parts of the country, the Nigeria Police Force has cautioned them not to interfere in the process, but to work within the bounds of their duties, which is to observe. Plateau State Commissioner of Police Isaac Akimoyede says in a INEC briefing in Jos that it is the duty of the police to protect and secure electoral officials, materials and voters during elections. He said although the police has a lead role in that task, other security and law enforcement agencies will assist in providing security during the election. It is expected that police and other security personnel are already at their duty posts across the country to protect electoral officials, ballot boxes and voters. In the spirit of peace and calm during the election, the police command in Ogun State has appealed to residents to desist from violence and thuggery during tomorrow's election. Police Public Relations Officer Bimbola Oyeyemi says the command will not tolerate any act of thuggery and violence during the polls. He said the command had deployed many personnel across the state to check and curb enemy misconduct during the election. Oyeyemi also said 3 commissioners of police have been deployed to cover 3 senatorial districts in the state, and that is Ogun Central, Ogun West, and Ogun East. As reported earlier this week, U.S. former President Bill Clinton, who cancelled his scheduled trip to Nigeria this week, has spoken to President Muhammadu Buhari by telephone as promised. The president's media and publicity special advisor said in a statement that Clinton expressed regret that he did not make the trip, during which he was to witness the signing of a national peace accord by the 2 presidential front-runners. He is said to have wished Nigeria well during the polls, and President Buhari was said to have described Clinton as a friend of the country and commended him for his constant support for the peace, stability and progress of Nigeria under a democratic dispensation. The Lagos Police Command was being given a black eye on social media that it had planned to carry out a raiding operation in Lagos State 2 days prior to tomorrow's election. The Police Command says that is not true and that such information did not originate from the Lagos State Police Command. The police said there had been false information circulating in the social media that it would carry out a general raid on Thursday and Friday, and the people were warned not to keep late nights in those days. Police spokesman for the command, Chike Oti, says the information should be regarded as false and untrue. He said people in the state should go about their lawful business, and at least 30,000 security personnel drawn from many security agencies had been deployed for the elections in Lagos State. The rearrangement of the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Paul Usoro, scheduled for Thursday did not happen because Judge Chuka Obioko, who was to have heard that case, recused himself, citing personal reasons for his action. He is now the second judge to withdraw from the case. The first judge, Muslim Hassan, dumped the case at the request of the Usoro's legal team. Usoro is facing 1.4 billion naira fraud charges. Those familiar with the case say the recusal may be as a result of the defense team's complaint. For some time now, the Judge Hassan was an AFCC prosecutor prior to being appointed as a judge. AFCC is now prosecuting Usoro, and it isn't clear when a new judge will be assigned and when the case will take off again. The World Poverty Clock, a Vienna, Austria-based data lab, has reported that more than 91 million Nigerians, that is about half of the Nigerian population, live in extreme poverty. The report says between November and now, that is in the last 4 months, 3 million Nigerians have slipped into extreme poverty. The report further shows that as of 2 days ago, a day before Valentine's Day, 91 million Nigerians were living on less than $1 a day or less than 360 naira per day. In June last year, the Brookings Institution had reported that Nigeria had overtaken India as the poverty capital of the world. At that time, 87 million Nigerians were said to be extremely poor. Coming up, African stories, U.S. denies involvement in Libyan airstrikes. And later, international news, Maduro invites U.S. envoy, reveals secret meeting.
You are watching ANN.
If you know fit go internet or follow for Twitter, you know fit snap photo send or get it photo send. Now because you dey use palasa, your phone no dey answer. See me see wahala. My brother, go get smartphone, yeah. Drop that palasa phone. Phone wey no go for your hand, yeah. Drop that palasa phone. Phone wey no fit take selfie. Drop that palasa phone. No be correct phone, yeah. Drop that palasa phone.
Upgrade to a smartphone today and get double data for 6 months on any MTN data bundle you buy. Simply purchase a smartphone from any store, anywhere in Nigeria, or bring your current smartphone from any network. Insert your MTN SIM card to start enjoying your double data bonus. Offer is open to all new and existing MTN subscribers. Join the largest smartphone movement today.
Make it up for your hand,
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In African stories, the U.S. military has denied taking part in a raid on an Al-Qaeda site in Libya, contradicting a statement by a Libyan official. A spokesman of the head of the Presidency Council of the Tripoli-based Government of National Accord had said in a statement on Wednesday that a site with a number of Al-Qaeda members in Ubari was raided by joint U.S. and Libyan forces. U.S. Africa Command, responsible for American troops in the area, says U.S. forces were not involved in the raid and has not conducted any airstrikes in Libya in 2019. It added that the United States supports counterterrorism efforts of the UN-recognized Libyan government. The World Health Organization (WHO) says at least 900 children and young adults have died of measles in Madagascar since October, despite a huge emergency vaccination program. WHO's Dr. Katrina Kresinger says at a news conference, the number of deaths is based on official numbers that are likely to be very incomplete, as the current total of infections is 66,000. Kresinger says 22 million of the 26 million population have so far been vaccinated. in an emergency response program. Measles is a highly contagious viral disease that can cause complications including blindness and brain swelling and increased susceptibility to other diseases. President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, says the African continent has huge potential to create a level of investment needed to push forward its development. He said the AFDB will assist the continent in its progression. During an interview with China Global Television in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, Adesina expressed his confidence in Africa's future development hopes.
We've got to constantly be relentless, right, in making sure that we create environments that, allow people to invest in our continent. I don't think Africa should beg for development. It should develop on its own terms by attracting investments. And that's what our job is at the African Development Bank, is to push that frontier.
African Union member states launched a Continental Accountability Scorecard as an instrument to better achieve and assure a measure nutritional security across the continent. Another recent breakthrough has been the promising proposals for the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is expected to formally launch operations later this year, with 18 countries having ratified the agreement so far.
I mean, we are a population that's so massive, right? Rapid middle class is growing on the continent. And so the launch of the Continental Free Trade Area is really exciting, because you're talking about, a continent with the GDP combined of 3.3 trillion US dollars. Now that is the largest zone, free trade zone, since the WTO.
The many positive factors Africa going forward can utilize and on which it can build, noting the growth of the middle class and the need to capitalize on the potentially huge free trade area that exists across the continent. He says the AFDB will seek to support the continent in a major way by offering big investments.
About, a continent with the GDP combined of 3.3 trillion US dollars. Now that is the largest zone, free trade zone, since the WTO, World Trade Organization, was created in the 1940s.
China's tech company Huawei says it will start building 2 data centers in South Africa from next month as part of plans to expand cloud services across Africa. It says the company is working with South African partners for the construction of the data centers in Johannesburg first and Cape Town later. Its cloud service will be available to organizations in South Africa and its neighboring countries. The Chinese firm at the center of global security concerns wants to challenge Amazon, which is always expanding its presence in the emerging tech hub of Cape Town. The United Nations says a group of more than 150 Eritrean refugees have been flown from the Libyan capital Tripoli to Niger for resettlement. UN Refugees Agency says the group has been rescued from detention centers seen as extremely overcrowded and lacking basic standards. It says from Niger, the refugees will be resettled in different countries. UNHCR says more than 6,000 migrants and refugees are still detained in Libya. When we return, international news. Maduro invites U.S. envoy, reviews secret meeting, and later sport, Mali to face Senegal in AFCON Under-20 finals.
You are watching ANN.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby. We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward. Wait, stop. You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left. Yes. You're almost here. Keep going. You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In world events, UK Prime Minister Theresa May has suffered another symbolic defeat in Parliament over the next steps in her bid to secure a Brexit deal with the European Union. Theresa May's effort to secure continued backing for her attempt to wring concessions from Brussels over Britain's withdrawal from the bloc was defeated by a majority of 45 on Thursday. It is another humiliation for the Prime Minister that makes it less likely she will secure changes to the controversial backstop to avoid the creation of a hard customs border in Northern Ireland after Brexit. Although Thursday night's defeat has no practical effect, it will only reverse an achievement when she secured a majority for a Brexit motion, calling for changes to the backstop in a parliament that remains deeply divided. Conservative opponents of the backstop say this plan to avoid the creation of a border in Northern Ireland would keep Britain in a permanent customs union with the EU. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has accused Washington's European allies of trying to break U.S. sanctions against Iran at the Middle East conference organized by the United States and Poland. Pence slammed the European Union for remaining party to the agreement after the Trump administration withdrew from it last year and reimposed tough sanctions on Iran. Last month, Germany, France, and Britain launched a financial tool to help European firms with legitimate business interests in Iran avoid U.S. sanctions. Pence said the scheme set up by the EU to facilitate trade with Iran was an effort to break American sanctions against Iran's murderous revolutionary regime. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has invited a U.S. special envoy for revealing in an interview that his foreign minister recently held secret meetings with a U.S. official in New York. A senior Venezuelan official said the second of two meetings took place on Monday. Maduro said he hopes outhope of meeting with the U.S. president soon to resolve a crisis over the U.S. recognition of opponent Juan Guaido as Venezuela's rightful leader. Maduro said that while in New York, his foreign minister invited Abrams to come to Venezuela privately, publicly, or secretly. There was no immediate comment from the Americans. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has promised a strong response to a car bombing in Kashmir that killed at least 42 troops. New Delhi is calling for the complete isolation of Pakistan for harboring the armed group behind the devastating attack. Modi has told his security advisors to consider a response to the worst attack on Indian security forces in decades. Modi says those who committed this heinous act will pay a heavy price. Those who supported it will definitely be punished. Thursday's attack was claimed by the Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed, an armed group that has carried out a number of suicide and other attacks against Indian security forces since its formation 19 years ago. And finally, in this segment, we visit China, where nature is presenting majestic sceneries in many parts of the country. A coating of snow and a sharp drop in temperatures have created a sea of beautiful rime scenery out of bare tree branches and evergreen plants in Gopin City of North China. The snow and rime-covered trees have turned the city into a mystical icy world. Many residents were unfazed by the cold temperatures and headed outdoors to take pictures of the pleasant-looking scenery.
树挂非常好看，然后今天早晨我和我弟我们两个人专门过来拍一下这个树挂，感觉就比如说我在南方就非常少见，然后感觉它晶莹剔透的非常漂亮。
Up next, sports. Mali to face Senegal in AFCON Under-20 finals. Stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, Mali will face Senegal in the final of the Under-20 Africa Cup of Nations this weekend. Mali was in the final of the 2015 championship that they hosted, losing to Nigeria, and also lost in the final of the 2017 competition to host nation Zambia. Anti-racism groups are calling for French authorities to investigate racist and anti-Semitic targeting Paris Saint-Germain striker Kylian Mbappe. Extremely offensive words and a Celtic cross, a symbol often used by far-right extremists, were sprayed in black paint on the RERC, one of the overland underground lines that crosses the French capital. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on this and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.net. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Enjoy your weekend and make your vote count.